Good morning. I think we're waiting for a few more people to join us, but we'll get started just in the interest of keeping on time. Welcome to Musgrave Marketplace, Ballymun. Thanks so much for coming along. Ruth Hegarty is my name. I'm going to be emceeing the event this morning. And thank you very much to Jen White from Musgrave for setting everything up and inviting me to get involved in the event. As you know, we're here to discuss food waste, and we have a really fantastic panel of speakers for you this morning, and I think there's definitely going to be a lot of learning in it. We very much welcome your interaction. We're going to start off hearing from Owen Keogh, who's Head of Sustainability for Musgrave Group, who's going to give us just a brief overview of some of Musgrave's sustainability activity and their strategy. We're then going to hear from Lindsay Penny, who works with WRAP, who are an organisation in the UK who work in a very focused way on food waste across sectors. They work with retail, food service, and the general public. But Lindsay is the sustainability sector specialist for food service, and Lindsay has background and experience in working in events and contract catering and everything, so she's very much in touch with what happens on the ground in food service and the realities and challenges that people face. So she brings that reality to the work that WRAP do, and she's going to speak to us at the beginning giving a bit of an overview around food waste, the types of waste, the statistics around it, and then she's going to come back to us at the end to talk a bit more about WRAP's work and particularly some of the resources that WRAP have created specifically for the food service sector to help people monitor and tackle waste. Next, we will hear from Niall Hill. Niall works as a consultant chef now, but that is based on very extensive experience. Before he went out on his own as a consultant, he actually headed up the food at Butler's Pantry for 16 years. So obviously in a retail food business like that, margins are everything, and he would have worked, been very much involved in all of the product development, but also managing their teams and making sure that their food was profitable. So lots of learning from his years with the Butler's Pantry, as well as working in Canada for several years, where I think you learned a lot about kind of sourcing and sustainability and everything from the approach there as well. And then we're going to hear from Owen Cluskey, who's the owner of Bread 41 in Pearse Street. And it's kind of incredible to think that it's only been there since 2018, because it kind of feels almost like an institution in Dublin now. But Owen and his team have really put sustainability at the heart of their business in Bread 41. And so Owen is going to talk to us really about what they've done in Bread 41 as a case study, really to take from, and I think really talk about thinking about waste in all its forms in what they do. So there are speakers. We're really grateful to them for coming along today. And after we hear from each of them, we will then have a Q&A session, and we are going to try and leave really ample time for discussion and for Q&A. So as well as your questions for the panel, we would really love to hear from you on what you're doing or what you're not doing, or the challenges that you have, or the ambitions that you have in terms of what you'd like to do around food waste. And I know that Musgrave Marketplace have been reaching out to their customers, to a sample of customers recently, and they've heard back from their customers that food waste really is something that they want to tackle, and it's something people really do seem to be aware of and concerned about. So it's brilliant to see that interest is there, and hopefully you'll come away from today with some really clear actions that you can take to get started with, or if you're already on that journey, to take it a bit further. So first of all, I'm delighted to introduce Owen Keogh, Head of Sustainability for Musgrave Group.
I think, am I standing up? Yep. Great, thank you. I promise it's only going to be very short from me on the boring corporate sustainability stuff, but I'm relatively new to Musgrave, but I have to admit this is my first time presenting to an audience in a kitchen, but it's probably no better place to discuss food waste. Now what I wanted to chat through very briefly, if they move on, is our sustainability strategy, so protecting the planet and benefiting our communities. So obviously Musgrave Group is, as you know, Musgrave Marketplace, but also we're much broader than that. SuperValu, Centra, Frank and Honest, Donnybrook Fair, and a range of other brands from a retail and a food service side. So our overall corporate sustainability strategy is extremely important from all of those aspects. And we've gone through a process recently of reviewing that strategy, seeing if it's fit for purpose from a number of different points of view, from a compliance perspective, a consumer perspective, and a business customer perspective. But one thing we really found out was that we can have an awful lot of positive impact by working together with our business customers and our suppliers and broader stakeholders. The sustainability agenda at an overall level for Musgrave is extremely important, and that was reflected in our core business strategy last year by the creation of a fifth pillar around being the most trusted and sustainable businesses within the sectors that we operate. So really putting it on the same level footing as some of the other key areas of business activity for us as a group. And when we think about our strategy and what we redeveloped and its importance for the activity that we're going to be doing going forward, we created three pillars. Three pillars. So caring for the planet, creating vibrant communities, and sourcing for good. So very much reflecting the importance of working with various different stakeholders from community partners, but also our supply partners as well. So when we think about that, we have three pillars. But we also then have priority areas of focus beyond that. So if I take caring for the planet, net zero 2040 is a huge cross-cutting agenda for us where, yes, it's about climate change, but it's also about deforestation, food waste, and so on. Food waste is a specific focus there for us as well, where we're aligned to the government objective of reducing food waste by 2030, and also working with our suppliers again and the industry at large. Now, when we think about kind of our broader governance of that strategy, we govern it internally, but we also will be looking to report on things like food waste, but also climate change and our impact on communities externally going forward in a really robust and transparent manner. I just wanted to pick out a couple of things at a Musgrave Group level that we're focusing in on and honing in on from a food waste perspective. And firstly, retailer food waste prevention is really important for us, and indeed in our marketplace sites. But when you think of the scale of our retail business, food waste prevention there is something that we're really getting after. And following the food waste hierarchy on the right-hand side as well, where we're looking at prevention, redistribution where possible. And then where we do have food waste at the moment, in the main, it's redirected to anaerobic digestion. Some other things as well, because we have very powerful brands like SuperValu, Centra, Musgrave itself, Musgrave Marketplace, we have consumer campaigns where we can encourage people in the home to reduce their food waste. And I think collaboration with the industry, with government and broader stakeholders is really important for us with that broader context in mind of Musgrave Group and the impact we can have from a food waste perspective. And from a redistribution point of view, we also have partners that we work with. We work with Food Cloud in each of our marketplace sites, as well as our large depots. And then from a retail perspective, we're starting, I see Patrick here from Too Good To Go, we're starting trials on Too Good To Go from a retail perspective with SuperValu and Centra as well. So I just wanted to share those couple of things on the detail on food waste. Obviously in the background, we're doing a lot on reporting to try and gather figures around what is our waste and how are we reducing that over time. But they're just some of the things we're focusing in on at the moment. So that's everything from me. Of course, if you have any questions on the panel or afterwards, feel free to shoot them my way. Great.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Owen. That's super. Lindsay is up next. And I probably should have said as well, just to let people know at the beginning, because we are here for about 2 hours. So the toilets are just past the cash outs on the left-hand side there. Please feel free to, if you need to stretch your legs or you need to go to the toilet, just please feel free to go out and come back. You're not stuck here. We're not telling people about exits because we assume that they'll just come in, go out. Yeah, the exit is where the cash outs are, just down to our left, or you can always go back out the way you came in. Thanks, Owen. Health and safety, very important. Okay, so I will hand over now to Lindsay from WRAP.
Thanks, Ruth. Yeah, so really good to be here today. As Ruth said, I'm Lindsay. I am a sector specialist with WRAP. WRAP are a climate action NGO. We started in the UK in 2000 and now operate in over 40 countries. And most of the initiatives that we do are linked to the UN's Sustainability Development Goals, and particularly with food waste, it's the Sustainability Development Goal 12.3. So within WRAP, as we say, it's pretty much all aspects of climate. So we have Courtauld 2030, which is a food and drink focused initiative, and it includes water and greenhouse gases and focuses on food. We also have an arm that is textiles, and you might have heard of our Plastics Pact as well. We also have some citizen-facing campaigns as well, like Love Food, Hate Waste, Love Your Clothes, and Recycle Now are all the citizen-facing that come off these. But today our focus is going to be on food waste. So food waste, what is food waste? Food waste simply is any food that is uneaten or lost apart at any part of the supply chain. This can be from the farm. So if the demand's not there and products end up just never even getting off the farm and are spoiled at farm level. It can be supermarkets, restaurants, and in our homes. And what this food waste does is it's the amount of carbon dioxide that is released into the atmosphere as part of our carbon footprint. This can be from all day-to-day activities, as simple as driving, yeah, all of those things. But food waste is significant. Over 30% of our CO2 emissions come from food waste. Food production waste, and all of the attributes that go with it. And what about that carbon footprint? Well, that carbon footprint releases gases like carbon dioxide and methane into the atmosphere, and this warms up the Earth's temperature, and we've all seen and understand the impacts of what happens when with global warming. So for the sake of today, we're going to put it into 3 caps effectively. So we've got planet, profit, and people. And whatever way we look at it, some people might be focused on their net zero goals. Some people might be focused on bringing down the costs of food waste in their business. And for some of us, and probably most of us at the minute, labour's a real challenge. We know that the sector's struggling to get people into our kitchens. So where we can, if we can make our food processes more efficient, this can help to make our labour more efficient and also engage our teams and just help them along the journey. So some stats, some are global and some are specific to Ireland. So as I say, about 30% of total food produced is lost or wasted. This equates to 1.3 billion tonnes a year. And if food were a country, it would be the 3rd largest greenhouse gas emitter after China and the US. It is estimated that alone in Ireland, we waste 800,000 tonnes of food waste each year. And it's estimated that almost 200,000 tonnes of this food waste are generated within the hospitality and food service sector businesses. Then when we look at profit, of this 1.3 billion tonnes, it is estimated that this costs almost $1 trillion US. 1 kilogram of food waste is estimated to cost anywhere between €2.78 and €3.50. This equates to over £2.5 billion worth, 2.5 billion euros being thrown away in 2020. Over 5 million euros of that was just within the hospitality sector. And as I say, with the cost of living challenges that we have, nobody can afford to be throwing that kind of money in the bin. Now we'd look at people, and it is estimated that around 40,000 vacancies are within the hospitality and food sector in Ireland in 2022. If we look at 62% of food waste is generated in the kitchens, and a further 38% of that is coming off people's plates. So we've served the food, we've gone through all of the process of purchasing that food, storing that food, making that food and serving it for it just to end up in the bin. Consider the wasted labour and resources that go into that 178 tonnes of food waste. So you look at your electricity for storing it in your freezers, you look at the labour costs and the transport costs of getting it to your business. Your team, as I say, prepping it, caring for it, putting it into their mise en place, and then it to go to a plate and end up ultimately in the bin. It's sad. So we look at the food waste hierarchy, and where we can, prevention is key. Prevention is, let's not make it happen in the first time. Look at your production planners, look at what's selling, listen to what your customers are saying, see what kind of food waste is coming back on plates. Is it possible that you can potentially reduce it, your portion size slightly? Can you reduce your SKUs into your business? So can you use a broccoli on a Monday and on a Wednesday and use different parts of it? Where it's not possible to reduce and use within your business, then there's initiatives like redistribution. So that can be through charity or Too Good To Go and things like that. And then also, as a last resort, animal feeds and processes like that. All of those are parts of prevention. They're the most preferable options. They will save you money, they will save you time, and they will make your business more efficient. But also what these do is these feed people and not bins, because we're not in the business of feeding bins, we're in the business of feeding people. And then the further we go down the hierarchy, there's responsible refuge and recycling and recovery. And then ultimately what we can reduce going to landfill is a key. And what the gents will say today will explain to you a bit more detail of how we can look at this top end of the hierarchy and preventing food waste from happening in the first place. With food waste categories, it can be broken down very simply into spoilage, preparation, plate, and then other, which can be the likes of your buffets and stuff like that. But what's very interesting is 75% of this food waste is edible and should never end up as food waste in the first place. And as I've just said, Niall and Owen will discuss in a bit more detail the different strategies you can do to make sure that that edible food doesn't end up in the bin. We're in the business of feeding people and not bins.
Brilliant, thank you so much. So yeah, Lindsay, they're pretty staggering figures, aren't they? And sometimes it's a bit abstract to say, up to 30% of food is being lost, and like the impact of that in terms of global warming and all of that. But it's like, if we think about the fact that we actually are producing enough food to feed everyone in the world, like it's, when you think about it on that level, it's quite frightening, isn't it, that we're wasting that amount of food.
It is indeed, particularly at the minute. So as I say, we can look at it from a climate action point of view, but also there's a people action point of view, and not to confuse food poverty with food waste, but there is an impact. And most of our employees are probably the lower end of the income stream, and it doesn't do anybody's engagement or morale good to see good food going in the bin when people are struggling to put food on the plates at home. So I think that's a key factor to take into account as well.
Yeah, I think that raises a really important issue. I think there was some research in in the US around that there's a lot of people who work in food service who actually suffer from food poverty. So like that's a very real thing to think that there's people actually working in these environments and seeing food going to waste.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much. We're going
Thank
to hear from Lindsay again in a little while about some of WRAP's resources that can help you on your food waste reduction journey. Next, we're going to go to Niall Hill, who is definitely going to bring us into the culinary sphere now and get us thinking about
kitchen where
food.
I feel most comfortable. Just first question, how many chefs are here in the audience? Hands up. Okay, fantastic, brilliant. So I'm not going to teach you guys how to cook today, but what I want to do is I want to embed a zero waste mindset into your head when you go into your own kitchen and have a look at the opportunities that are in your own kitchen to basically save money. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of background. People always ask me, where did you learn your trade? What was the most important lesson in your own career to date? And it was when the banking crash happened in 2009, 2010. We had 11 stores in the Greater Dublin area. We had opened up 2 stores out of cash flow, so we didn't borrow any money. We used cash flow. We invested $500,000 into key money, fit outs, and staffing, and then the market fell. Right. So I said, so what can I do as a culinary director? What can I do to basically save our business? We had 110 staff. We didn't want to let anyone go. So I had to look at my variable costs. And you'll probably hear me talking a little bit about variable costs throughout this demonstration. So your variable costs as a chef, what you can control is your food costs, your labor cost, okay, and your waste. Right, so they were the 3 areas that I really focused on. Now, although our food cost was really, really good, I needed to see if I could maximize the profits without compromising on quality of ingredients, my recipes. It wasn't about buying cheaper, it was about buying smarter, but it was also about utilizing what I had within the kitchen. And that's when I spent about 18 months looking at the business model and taking my food costs from 27%, which for retail was really good because we handmade everything, sit down to 22.5. Right, so that was my contribution to our business without letting anyone go, without our staff taking a pay cut, because I had a responsibility to look after our staff. So I'm going to, can I just go, sorry. Yeah, so if you want to go click on the slides. Yeah. Yeah, I always go back to Douglas McMaster from Silo as inspirational and aspirational. Now, I love this saying, waste is the failure of the imagination. Okay, so what I want is just to kind of embed that statement into your head, okay, and into your kitchen. So it's really having a look at how you can use your imagination to reduce the waste within your kitchen. Can I go again, that slide? Yeah, so kitchen culture, a zero waste mindset to a sustainable kitchen. That's what I want to achieve in the 25 minutes. And Ruth, you time check me, please, because I could talk all day on this, okay?
I'll let you know.
So what I want to do is, I done a project last year. I spent a day on McNally Farms, and I spent a day with an organic farmer called Paula Pender down in Carlow. And I wanted to see the produce and how it was grown and what was being wasted right on the farm. And what I found was that the likes of, I was working with Stephen and we were harvesting beetroot. All the tops were being cut off and was going back into the soil, which was okay because it's soil health and it's regenerating the soil and it's giving us something back to the soil. But I'm thinking as a chef, I could actually I want the stalks and I want the leaves. I use the leaves in the salad and I use the stalks in stir fries and pickles, whatever. So I seen an opportunity. So I decided to take one product. Could you go on to the next slide? Yeah. And I wanted to take a celeriac, right? So celeriac used in kitchens. I wanted to challenge myself to see if I could use every part of that celeriac and what the cost was percentage in that celeriac. So traditionally, most kitchens will use the bulb, okay? And we'll use it in soups, or we'll use it in roasted veg, or we'll use it in purees. We don't think about the roots, we don't think about the stalks, we don't think about the leaves, and sometimes we don't think about the skin. So can you go again? Okay, so go, yeah. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to basically have a look at the different components within that product and break it down and see what the percentages are. Okay, so what's really interesting is the bulb is 44%, right? So that's traditionally what's used in the kitchen, right? So there's 56% potential waste that we're not tapping into. Okay, so I'm always looking from a sustainability point of view about our costs, and with rising costs in kitchens and energy, it's really, the margins are really tight. So how do we think? So I basically broke it down. You can see I used a peeler to peel the celeriac. I didn't use a knife. You see a lot of kitchens that use knives, so you're taking too much off. So I'm kind of a little bit mean like that. Owen will back that up as well. So yeah, so you can see the difference. So it's interesting. Like the roots were probably the hardest component there to use was the roots because they're tough and fibrous. So what I done was I brined them, I fermented them, and actually they did break down. They were tender. The skin was quite easy to use, even though it does take a little longer to cook than the bulb itself. The leaves were multifunctional as well, and I'll go through what I've done with everything. And then your bulb is your star of the show. Okay, being traditionally French trained, we never waste a morsel of meat or fish or any kind of protein, but we don't actually think about the vegetables and plant-based, and kind of that's what we need to start looking at now. Can you go again on to the next slide? Thanks. Okay, so I want you to remember these three words. So adapt, evolve, create. Okay, so businesses have to adapt, evolve, and create at the moment. So the first picture there is furiyaki, which is a Japanese seasoning. And that was made with the celeriac leaf. So I dehydrated the celeriac leaf and I used that in a seasoning. So it's like using like a celery salt. That flavor, so really intense flavor. I made a fiber chutney. So the stalks of the celeriac I juiced. And if anyone juicing in their kitchens at all, juicing fruits or vegetables, what happens is you get the juice and you get the pulp, you get the fiber. So I made a fiber chutney and I used the juice in something else, okay? The skin, I made a miso celeriac skin puree, and then I made a celeriac leaf salt as well for seasoning. So again, it's multifunctional. So again, it's looking at adapting, evolving, and creating with every component. Can you go to the next one? Now, this is where it becomes interesting in the cost factor. So I bought this celeriac from Paula Pender. I said, Paula, how much would you sell me the celeriac for? It's organic. She said, €2 now for a box. I said, that's fine. So I used that as my base. So you can see there, the leaves were 21 cents. The stalks were 29 cents. The peelings were 51. The bulb itself was 88, and the roots were 11 cents. So potentially, what you're looking at is you're throwing away €1.12. That's what you're throwing in the bin by not using it. So when you start to talk money, it becomes real, okay? So, and if you're wasting 56%, potentially wasting 56% of a product, it becomes real again. So you can see the different the components, the leaves I dehydrated. So I made a celeriac salt, I made a furiyaki, and I made a gremolata, which is an Italian sauce. The stalks I juiced, and I used that as a braising liquid. And I made a chutney out of the fiber. The skins, I done a caramelized celeriac miso puree, and the roots I salted and pickled. And I was able to use absolutely every single part of that product. So do you want to just go on again? Next one. So this was the dish that I'd done for a dinner. So it was the braised celeriac with caramelized celeriac skin miso puree, celeriac leaf and roast hazelnut gremolata. So kind of like a plant-based starter dish, but kind of pitched at a high level. But again, you know, you can take it to whatever you want. It doesn't have to be as complicated as this. It can be really, really, really simple. Right. So what I want to do is this morning, I'm not going to cook anything, but we're going to have a look at the ingredients that I have here. So basically, it's a kilo of broccoli. Okay. So broccoli, you've got two components. You got the florets and you got the stalks, okay? So when you have a look, I actually just done this earlier on, so you have a look at the percentages there. So the celeriac, the florets are 60% and the stalks are 40%. So if if your premises is serving a lot of broccoli, it's a really basic veg, but if you're serving a lot of broccoli and you're serving, you know, weddings or you're doing functions, 40% potentially is going in the bin. Now, I know there's an argument where people say, well, I'll make a broccoli soup, right? But what I want you to think of this is so much more than just making a broccoli soup, because I'm sick of broccoli soups. It's got to be a little bit more creative. So what I've done here is I've I've done a pickle. So pickle stock. So I've just made a simple pickling brine, but I've used star anise. I've used there's some cinnamon in there. There's some fennel seeds, some mustard seeds. I've added a lot of flavour, so that can give you kind of longevity and you can preserve it. And this can go in as a garnish in your restaurant or your establishment, but also you can use it for pâtés, for salads. It's really so. I'm going to give you a taste of this one, and then what I done was I done a julienne of the stock, and I made a somtam salad, which is a Thai salad, okay? So what it replicates is the green papaya in the salad. So it's the same texture. So it's so much more than just using it for a soup. You can get loads of different textures in here. Has anyone got any allergies to peanuts by any chance? No allergies? Okay, so we will give you a little. Have you got are you like, oh, sorry, Ruth. Well, I'll give you the pick. You can have the pickles, okay? So what I want you to think is just when you look at this. So say I give you simple maths, okay? So a kilo of broccoli is costing you €1. So if you think about it, every time you use broccoli, if you don't use the stalks, you're throwing out 40 cents, and 40 cents is going into the bin, right? So when actually. What I teach as well in college, so sometimes what I do is for my students, because they're very visual, I actually have money on the table, and we do the exercise with money as well. And I say, okay, so put that money and put that in the bin. And they look at me and they think I'm absolutely crazy, but that's the reality of what we're doing. So we're not tapping into that resource. And I think we need to protect our margins. And when my angle for sustainability as well is also that a business is viable. Okay, your business has to be viable so that you can reinvest in your business, reinvest in your staff, and keep on moving forward. Okay, do you want to go on to the next one? All right, so this is an interesting one now. So we have a look at this is the cauliflower. So cauliflower is slightly different. We have 4 components. Okay, so we got the florets. Okay, so that's the star of the show. Okay, we've got your stalk. Okay, so that's the heart, and that's the stalk on the end. Okay, and we've got our leaves. Okay, so to me it's just like cabbage. It's a brassica, so same flavor profile, same texture. You can use it in any way that you use cabbage. And then finally we've got the ribs. Okay, has anyone ever eaten a rib before? Cauliflower rib. Okay, so if you blanch that and then barbecue it and then put an orange miso glaze on it, absolutely delicious. But again, you can go with the stir fries, you can pickle it, there's so much more you can do with it, So there's loads of restaurants and establishments have different styles of food, so you can incorporate it into your menu, but you don't call it waste or leftover. It's just cauliflower. So again, your menu descriptor is really, really important when you have a look at that. So let's just have a look at the percentages. So the florets are 51%, right? So a potential 49% is actually going in the bin. So when you look at that, I think this head of cauliflower was 159. So you can do the maths on that. That you're throwing out maybe 75 cents every time you prep a cauliflower, and then you got the labor on top of that. The leaves are 11%. So that can go into a stir fry. You can make kimchi out of it. You can make sauerkraut. Same process. And then we have the ribs, which are 20, if I can read 20, is that 24, is it? 24? And the stalks are 14. Now the stalks, I would basically slice on a mandolin, get it really fine and pickle them, okay? I tend to add in a little bit of turmeric into my pickle as well, just to give it a bit of colour, because when you pickle even broccoli or you pickle cauliflower, it's quite dull in colour, so you want it to kind of bounce, you want it to be alive, Do you want to go again? This is just another thinking of carrot peelings, right? So I've done a huge amount of work on carrots. When I go back to my business, what I've done was I analysed everything from a food cost point of view and from a yield analysis. Okay, so we were doing this Moroccan-style roasted carrot salad. So I had a look at the yield analysis. Well, what's the best way to do it? Is the best way to roast the carrots whole? Is it to chop them up and roast them? Is it to boil them, then roast them? Is it to steam them, then roast them? And what was the yield analysis? What gave me the best yield, right? So, but first of all, what I found out was that I'm losing 30% every time I peel on top and tail and peel carrots. So 30% is in my business, we were feeding 20,000 people a week, right? So for me, that was a huge cost. And then I also found out that the yield analysis, because everything was weighed, so our salad, so if you're in retail and you're selling a salad that's 200 grams, it's weight, right? So when you're building components for salads, you're looking at the yield loss, but you're also looking at products that increase in weight. So the likes of, give you an example, the likes of barley. So barley is a product that I love in retail because it's doubling in weight and it's cheap as chips. So it's really cheap. So you're getting value for your money. So this is just an idea for carrot peeling. So that's a carrot gazpacho. And then if you don't have enough of a product to actually make an actual dish, you can make a component. So then I've done a carrot and fennel chutney with a duck dish. And that's purely just using carrot peeling. So the key when you're using carrot peelings is that you have all your other mise en place ready, and you wash it, you peel it, and I blended it right away. Because what happens with carrots, when you peel them and you leave them at room temperature, they go black as well. So you have to be just kind of smart in your production. And it can be the case where, you know, your carrot peelings links into somebody else's work and they're prepping something and you're prepping something. So again, it's looking at your production and efficiency, driving efficiency throughout your kitchen. Okay? Do you want to go on to the next one? Okay, I'm just going to touch base on what was said earlier, just on the plate waste. Now, I done my own independent research 2 years ago. I just put out a Google's form just into Irish kitchens to see what was, you know, I wanted to challenge this, what the EPA were saying of what's happening in Irish kitchens. And it was exactly the same. So plate waste was the biggest waste. So what is that telling you? It's telling you that you're overportioning or your SOPs aren't right. So that's what it's telling you. It's telling you that basically you're serving too much food and it's coming back. Okay, and then you've got your prepared waste and your unprepared waste. So your prepared waste is something that you're preparing in the kitchen and it's not being used, it's been thrown out, and then your unprepared is you're over ordering. So how do you tackle that? So you got to understand how much waste is being generated in your business and how much it costs, and it all boils down to cost. Like, how much is it costing your business? And it's frightening. It is absolutely frightening. Understand where it's been generated. So how do you find out where your waste is coming from? You know, when you're busy in a busy kitchen, you're kind of going, well, where is it coming from? How do I do this? And then review, evaluate, and prioritize actions. So you need to kind of have a look, have something in place, like a really good KPI, key performance indicator, to say, okay, well, you know, can I measure this, and how can I evaluate it, and what do I prioritize, and then implement strategies to reduce reuse waste in your business. You go on to the next one? So this is just a simple calculator for how I would calculate food waste. So it's your food waste divided by your number of covers, okay, gives you your total food waste benchmark for cover. So you need to find that out. So you need to analyze what your food waste is versus how many covers you're doing. Then you've got something tangible that you can have a look at and say, okay, well, it's costing me, say it's costing me, or it's say 300 grams per cover, right? And what's that at a cost? And there was a figure mentioned earlier on that it's between 278 and 350, depending on the style of business you're in. That's what it's costing you per kilo for food waste. So it's you can easily calculate that, okay, and work out what your benchmark is, and then set yourself easy targets. So say it's 300 grams per cover on average. Now you can do this over one day, okay? You give yourself a target of maybe reducing that by 50 grams or 70 grams, achievable within a certain period of time, and then you measure that and you see where you're at then. Because so it's easy, if you can't see it, you can't measure it, it won't be fixed, okay? You want the next one? Okay, so I just want to talk about menus for a sustainable future as well. So the way a menu is designed and implemented can drastically influence food waste from the numbers of items to offer and how often the same ingredients are used. Okay, so continue to review access menu items and ask what's popular on your menu items and what's regularly causing waste and how can you address this. Okay, right. So what I'm seeing out there in trends is menu flexibility, menu streamlining. So chefs and kitchens are condensing their menu, but concentrating on the quality. They're not compromising on the quality. It's just they're streamlining this because they've staffing issues and they can't do big menus anymore. Okay, don't have the quality or the skill set that's in the kitchen, so you condense it and you control it a little bit more. You want the next one? So these are the three areas that I look at: is flexibility, demand, and margin. Okay, and I use a system called menu engineering, where I have a look at the matrix of a menu engineering, and that's what I've done in my business. I put all of my dishes from my savoury kitchen to my pastry kitchen to my bakery into a menu engineering matrix, and I had a look at what was the best seller and what was the most profitable, what wasn't selling and what had the worst margin, so there's different categories. Anyone ever heard of menu engineering? Stars, dogs, plough horses, puzzles. Okay, so you can Google it, have a look at it, right? But it's a really good way of looking at your business and looking at your menu and looking at where the areas for innovation are. Okay, but also having a look at what your star players are. Okay, obviously in kitchens you hear them call them Messi's and Ronaldo's. They're your star players. Okay, so they're the ones. They're the big ticket items that are bringing in your customer, but you're also making the most money on. I also challenge them, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit later on. Can you go on to the next one? In my business, what I done was I had a look at cross-functional recipes. So you might say, well, why would you do that? For me, it drove efficiency, okay? It helped me manage my costs and helped me reduce my waste. So my menu was constantly evolving. Does anyone change their menus kind of like seasonally 4 times a year? Yeah, okay. I found that was more challenging than actually changing my menu, constantly changing it. And I think if you have a look at the 3 words I said, adapt, evolve, create, if you put that mindset into your menus, that you're constantly evolving your menus and you're using what's in season. But also you're using what you need to use up as well. So you're constantly have that flexibility, and it goes back to the flexibility, demand, and the margin. So they all kind of interlink together. This is just a simple apple crumble, and you can see that it can go right through the season. So I've done all my development on it, done all my costings on it, and I might be only necessarily changing one ingredient in it. So I don't have to go back to do my costings. Am I getting my margin on that? Does the recipe work? Is it selling to the customers? So again, my customers are having a look at seasonality, and seasonality will drive your food waste down as well, okay, and your carbon footprint. Could you go on to the next one? Utilising your ingredients. I had on this slide before, I had using your leftovers, and I wanted to take leftovers out of it because I hate that word leftovers, because if it's good enough to use, then you should be able to use it. So the likes of mashed potato. So if you have mashed potato on your dinner service, well, why don't you do enough mashed potato for your potato bread for breakfast in the morning, or if it goes into a fish cake, or you're utilising it all the time. And if there is some left over, it can also be incorporated into your menus very, very easily. But it doesn't look like you're using mashed potato on your full suite of menus. So you're kind of hiding it a little bit. So just to recap on that one, so cross-functional recipes with your current menu, look at how you can utilize your ingredients and develop recipes that can run through the seasons. I think will help you reduce your food waste, which will in turn increase your bottom line. Okay, so for me, I really kind of come at it from a cost point of view. When you're going looking for a pay rise, you need to say, okay, well, this is where I'm saving a lot of money. So yeah, could you go on to the next one for a sec? Right. So okay. So what I want to do is I want to have a look at these four pillars, and these are the 4 pillars that I would use in my business, or if I'm working with a business. First of all, we have a look at the variable costs. Okay, and that's what you can control at the moment. And I know of a lot of clients who are saying, well, how can I control rising costs of ingredients, but I don't want to compromise on anything, right? There are ways you can do that. Food cost, I want to dive a little bit kind of deeper into that, because traditionally you done a recipe, you said, okay, I want a 70% margin, 30% food cost, and that was kind of it, and it was kind of just left, okay? But there's so many variables within food costs, it's unbelievable, so many levels. And the kind of buzzword out there is margin erosion. Has anyone kind of come across margin erosion? Okay. So that was in my business, margin erosion. Okay, so it was my margin was being eroded somewhere, and I needed to figure out where it was being eroded. So you come up with say a chicken dish, and you're getting a 70% margin. Okay, so one of your chefs serves more veg with it, or gives a portion and a half. That's margin erosion, because it's eating into your margin. Every time you give something for free, so if somebody comes in, they have a cup of coffee, or you give them lunch and it's free, that's eating into your margin erosion. if somebody burns something, so say I'm in Owen's business and he gets me to make some French a pear and almond tart, and I burn 300 pear and almond tarts, like that's eating into Owen's margin, and it's eroding because it has to be accounted for. And what happens is most of the time is that is not picked up by anybody. Nobody records that. So I done an exercise in my business on coffee because we were using a really good coffee brand, but the margins weren't right. Something was wrong. So we had to look at the machines, we make sure the machines were calibrated, that there was the right amount of grams. And what I found was that we had 110 staff and everyone was having 3 or 4 cups of coffee a day, and it was just eating into my margin, right? So what I done was I just put a simple process in. I said, guys, you can drink whatever coffee you want, but I need just to put it through the till. With their staff card, put it through the till, record it. That way then I had a record and I could go back to the CFO and say, okay, so staff coffee was this, and I wanted to make sure that my margins balanced. So it was really kind of simple, right? So then your labor cost is probably the hardest at the moment. So what I've seen in traditionally, it would be a third, and a third. So food costs, labor costs, and then everything else. And you're working off a really small margin, maybe 4, 5, 6, 7%, depending on what business you are. But labor cost has kind of gone through the roof now. So it's a decision you have to make. But what I would say to you is that you look at driving efficiencies within your business, for a sustainable kitchen, and basically you need to be able to do a production planner and have a look at what makes sense to you in a process. So I have a look at shelf life. So my production planner, I have a look at what's viable that I can make only once a week or twice a week. So if I'm making, say, a vinaigrette, well, what's the point in making it every day or that would shelf life for 3 months. Why not make it for a month? All right. So it's utilising your staff you have and basically making sure that planner is adhered to, that you're not making stuff every day. Okay, so again, it's a bit of organisation, there's a bit of thinking behind it, and a bit of thinking behind your menu. And then lastly, I want to talk about reformulation, right? So reformulation, I would say to you, probably was the biggest pillar that saved our business. So what I done was I took all of my recipes and I challenged them. Okay, so historically you'd say, okay, no, don't change that because it works, it's grand. But I said, no, I need to challenge these. So what I done was I'm going to give you a really simple example. Is that, say you take a carrot and parsnip soup, right? And it's 50% in each, right? And carrots are €1 a kilo and parsnips are $1.25 a kilo. Okay, so I don't want to buy cheaper carrots. I want to buy the best out there. I don't want to compromise on anything on anything about it. So what do? If I go 51% carrots, 49% parsnips? Well, what does that do to my bottom line? If I go 48, 52, and I start to challenge it from a product development point of view, but without it changing the texture, the flavor, the consistency, it changes nothing of the dish. But what is it doing to my bottom line? It's actually making a difference. So if you're doing volume, that can have a huge impact, right? So I was working for one client and they have this famous lentil and vegetable soup, and they're doing 35,000 portions a year, right? Cost is coming in at 34 cents, so not an issue on the food cost. Making a great margin. It was in the star pillar of the menu engineering, but I challenged it and I just slightly changed the percentages of the vegetables that were in it. Didn't change any of the suppliers, any of the ingredients, but it came in at 31 cents. So that had a huge impact. So again, when you look at reformulation, think outside of the box and think it as an idea of maximizing your profits. Okay, because we need to, for it to be sustainable, we need to be profitable, and we need to manage it and mind it. Okay. Any questions? Do you want to have a little taste of pickles? Well, I might just, Clem, you just pass that around, and just maybe they can just fork it and. Do you want to taste some salad? So you can have a look at the texture. So that's the som tom salad. So it's a basic green papaya, but there's no green papaya in it, okay? So I've replicated the green papaya with the broccoli. What I've done is I tend to use the top part for the pickles. I kind of like the texture. I like the way it looks as well. And then the base of it then is for julienne. I've just done it on a mandolin.
Niall. Are you, oh,
Am I
one
gone
more
over
from-
time? Have I?
Yeah. Are you at the end now?
Yeah,
or?
yeah,
Yeah. Oh yeah. No.
Am I on
that's
time or am I over?
You're on borrowed time from
I'm on
Owen.
borrowed time. Sorry, On. I'll feed you.
No, we're good. We're good. Yeah. Give out the tastings and then we can.
Yeah, well, I'll just work away on the tastings, and Owen, if Owen wants to.
Yeah. Do you want to do that? That's okay. Great.
The clicker.
Yeah.
I won't
Click
tell
away.
you to do the clicker for me.
All right.
Unlike Niall. How's it going? How's everyone here? I love Niall's first question, and I actually learned a lot. I wasn't on my phone texting people there. I was actually taking notes, and that's what I really like about this industry and those you meet along the way, that forever learning. That's pretty much what I'm going to talk about today, is Bread 41 as a whole, and me as a person, forever learning. It would be Connor Costello, retail office, he's heading in. It's very important about how Bread 41 is where it is today. And Niall's first question was, are there any chefs? So how many people said they're chefs? Yeah. Any chef owners? Okay. Any bakers? No bakers. It's always a problem, Niall. You always get the chefs, but no bakers. So I have slides here just for the purpose of having a couple of slides. So I'll put them in here. Bread 41 is a small baker, and I do say it's small baker because it is a small bakery. It gets misconstrued that it's a massive bakery. It's a small bakery that currently employs 60 people. 40, I think it's 46, which are full time. I'm super proud of a lot of things we do, and I'll talk about them as we go. I'll give you like a 5-minute overview of what 41 is, what it's about, and where it's going. I'll help where I can about clearly setting a vision, a goal, big beliefs that I have, and I talk about it an awful lot. And I think anyone in the room, you have a vision and a goal. You might have just found it yet. So first and foremost, this is where mine came. This is Peggy Baker, who was a baker. That's my nana. My mother's maiden name is Baker. Really, really strange. Don't know how it came around. But I'm a carpenter by trade. Left school, became a carpenter because you could earn loads of money. Traveled the world. Found myself having that moment in Australia going, what am I doing with my life? And decided to get back to something that made me really, really happy. That was 12 years ago. So in 12 years, I've flipped my career, changed my career, I've re-educated myself. And now I'm probably where I never thought I'd be, where I have staff depending on me. I have I think it's around 144 people depending on me, because my staff's family also depend on me. So my vision is real bread, and my main goal is to get real bread on every table on the island of Ireland. So an all-Ireland approach, and understanding food and connecting with real food. The last 20 years, bread is one thing that will all, I'd say, has been taken pillar to post. It's convenient. We toast because we're trying to add flavour. I can't understand how some of the major players have had it for so long, so that's why I'm challenging. I'm not challenging the small bakery. I'm here to support them, help them. You know, guide, I believe there's room for a baker in every street corner. Farm to fork, it's just ripped, pillar to post. So really understanding that and reconnection with the planet and zero waste. A long time ago, I was out, I'm going to be zero waste bakery, I'm a zero waste cafe, and then I realized how difficult it is to go zero waste. So I'll explain about that. I'm moving to zero, let's just say. This is what a Green Swan, it's pretty much a shift that delivers, you know, a Green Swan is something, so I'll give you an example of what a Green Swan that will turn to a Black Swan is. It would have been leaded petrol. So with diesel car, we all thought it was doing good for the planet, but turned out to be bad. New business models are emerging every single day of the week. So for me, how does Bread 41 stay ahead of them, you know, or stay alongside them? Business is built on super strong culture and a super strong set of values. Where I bring everyone together. I said, what is good to you? What's bad to you? Let's get a set of values together. What's the number one value? It's we care for each other, so we look out for each other. Second is the customer. Normally, a lot of businesses is very customer focused. I'm very people focused. I'm looking at who's on my team and how I can support them, how I can help them. So it's really, really important to do that. And do that with your team, and creating a movement. You know, speaking out of what I'm going to do and how I'm going to achieve it. It holds me to account and the team. So it's super important. I think Sarah put these in. Waste is, I actually massively struggle with waste. I struggle with it because if we open our eyes, forget about world, forget about our localities, our locations where we are, the food we're putting into the bin, people are starving, people are going hungry. I see waste as a cause for change, especially food waste. I see waste as money. I see it how we can pay our staff better, how we can pay ourselves better, how we can pay the bills, how we can feed people. Big shout out to Too Good To Go, because I think it's a fabulous concept. I feel that if you're connected with food, no matter whether you're a server, whether you work in a supermarket, whether you're a chef, whether you're a kitchen porter, or who you are, you have an obligation to make sure and understand where that waste is going and where it shouldn't be going. I don't look at waste, I don't look at food as Niall was saying earlier on, as in topping and tailing carrots. I look at food as a whole approach. So I don't see waste when I look at food. And I think that definitely has helped me get to where I go now. You all know these stats are out coming there. One stat that's not on it that would be along the waste side of things. We weren't always zero. We were always zero waste. We were working towards it, but a lot of the time we were letting things go under the radar. The pandemic was definitely one that got us. We managed to pivot pretty well, but at that stage we were like, okay, what can you do and what can't you do? Instructions weren't coming clear from the government. So it caught us a little bit there where looking back at it now and I'm looking at figures before, I'm like, God, we were creating waste, you know. In Bread 41, I don't have any brown bins. I don't have anywhere. My food waste, which is predominantly just plate waste, goes to a biodigester. It's turned to compost over a 24-hour period that then links into a farm that we work with. Struggled quite a bit actually to move the compost on lately of the process behind it, where it goes. I monitor water. I monitor electrical. I do non-value and value. I'll do an exercise with you now in a minute, just try to get some interaction on it. But I monitor absolutely everything. The first thing I did day one, it might sound ridiculous, and I seen it and it was in the toilets down here, and it's a real good thing to see, is I don't have black bags on site. I have clear bags. Why? Because I turn them upside down and I look what's in the bag. And it's with waste and understanding of value, it's the small little changes you'll do in your business that will allow you to build. And we call it building layers. So if you get everyone understanding why there's a clear bag there, it's genuinely because they want to see what you're putting in the bin. That's it. That's the bottom line. And then all of a sudden, they're looking what's in the bin. And then you've given this accountability to everybody. So it's not just about me, it's about the team. It's a leader culture. It's everyone has their eyes on it. And everyone has the opportunity to say, stop, call, wait. Well, why is that in the bin? Is it in the right bin? And if you can focus on them small things, you'll see bigger changes within your company. Our waste, yeah, we have we have Harp Renewables. They're great. I don't actually give them that much props because I didn't give me any money off it. So they're great though. If you ring them and tell them Owen was saying you can give me a discount, tell them it's Owen 10%, see what they say. But it's a fantastic machine. It really, really works. I'm a personal believer. I'm actually, I know someone who's going to help me lobby. I think that we should all be getting grants for these, you know. I really do. I think as a business owner, you should be getting backings off this. We're moving to zero. Biggest thing to date we've done is we've got rid of the compostable cup. So we don't use them in Bread 41. We were 3 days there, 3 or 4 days pre-pandemic. We had it gone Monday to Thursday, and then the pandemic came. We were back on it. Now we're absolutely zero, 7 days a week. What's happened? Does anyone any idea what's happened since I got rid of the cup? Anyone? Any shout? Pardon? More business. Yeah. My sales are up. You know. Coffee actually I thought I was slowing down quite a bit. Got rid of it. Why? Does anyone know why? Because we educated people. We didn't just do it overnight. We explained to people why we're doing it. We put that onus back on the person coming to the door. I could have a bakery in a warehouse in the middle of nowhere and just make money. But then it wouldn't keep me. It wouldn't get me educate people why I'm doing, what I'm doing. Every day we have people coming up, had your bread yesterday, loved it. Had your bread yesterday, the end was burnt. You know, it's about constantly the relation of feedback of customers and us also giving them feedback. You know, since January this year, I think it's around 12,500 euros I have more in the business because we've got rid of the compostable cup. We moved to a cup. It was like a euro deposit scheme, which genuinely I put my hand up and say wasn't a great move for us. It was a good move, we thought, and then we realised that we weren't getting cups back in. So when we were monitoring what was coming back in, they just weren't coming back. And I was saying, they're just not valuing a euro. People don't value a euro. So now it's €5. and it's a different cup. And then we looked at where the cups are coming from and how we source the cups, and we're very proud that we're buying the cup in Ireland. The cup's made in Ireland, but it's bought through an English company. I can't wrap my head around that either. So we buy them that way, but it's €5. So if you come into Bread 41, but believe it or not, guys, a lot of people come to Bread 41 are tourists. They get it. And I'm telling you here now, the Americans, they buy it. Do you know what to do before they come back? They come back with the cup, how you doing? I'm here for my refund. So we give a refund option. And they've been through this before. It's all it is a slight conversation. It used to be a long-winded, hey, we do a cups here, we don't take cups back. And we just shortened down what it was. So we don't do cups, we made 2 little signs, the compostable cup costing the planet and the business, and the reusable cup. And it's worked. Last week's stats, I did on average a day. So if I averaged it over 7 days, I did 475 cups of coffee a day. So yeah, people come back, and we're seeing it coming back in. I think on Saturday we sold, I think it was 186 €5 cups. Now they'll come back, depending if it's tourists, it's normally today or tomorrow, a lot of that will come back. But it's been a really good thing for us. We looked at the pastry range, we looked at what we're doing, and Niall spoke about that. And we sucked it in a little bit, not actually because creating waste, obviously to try get flow. I'm a big advocate learning a lot about lean at the moment. I just back from a trip to Japan where I went to see 22 different businesses that implement lean. It's helped me massively in the business. Waste bread, we used to, and it's actually too good to go, I've gone on a couple of times about it, we bake to sell out. So we don't go in and go, let's make 10,000 tomorrow. We genuinely bake to sell out. So we open till 3, and we look at figures to allow us to have stock till 2. And then if anything's hanging around, we do there. We predominantly don't have, I'd say, on a busy day, if we had 4 loaves of bread left, that would be a lot. That can be used. We work with a charity. We used to actually genuinely give leftover breads to charity. Now we tend to add on, because when I went down the whole social impact side of it, I said, we're now giving waste food to charity, which I don't really agree with. I think we should be making extra for them, and we shouldn't be looking at charities as taking our waste. Biogester on site, it's been really, really good, really, really positive. I'd highly recommend it. Again, own 10%. It doesn't exist, but just tell them I said it does. Circular model, we're watching everything we make, how we create, where it's going, what the end use is. Got to bear in mind, guys, that we're just a baker on Pear Street. So why I'm saying that is I'm not saying what I'm doing and you could be doing this. Anyone can do this. It's like, if I really wanted to shout about it, I pay the best in the country. All my staff have pensions that I contribute to. I am not worried about the future. I'm excited about the future. We have one thing that we all commonly do is we make food. What's the one thing you have to do? You don't have to buy a new car. You don't have to get your house painted. You need to eat. The world is changing. Everything will move to senses. We can play in them senses. You close your eyes, you eat something, it's warm, it's good for you, you feel good about it. Okay, you get in a car, maybe a brand new car, you feel good for a week until you put the kids in the back and they eat Tato crisps, and there's crisps everywhere. But with food, you can get that connection, and people need to do it. So, don't be worried about what's coming down the line. Yeah, I'm going to change the industry across multiple programs for the greater good. There is no Planet B. Why? I was a chef, no different than Niall. I worked in the industry. I was a lot older when I got into the industry, so shouting and screaming and hitting with hot pans, my mantra was, hit me with that hot pan, I'm going to hit you back. So I couldn't understand that was happening, and I think that has been a big light's been shone onto that, and I know you spoke earlier on about the industry's going through rigmarole. I'm just like to say out straight it is. I don't have any issue with staff. Currently, I looked this morning there online, I have about 56 CVs of people looking for employment. And why are they looking for employment? Because I'm very clear. I'm trying to create a leader culture. I'm paying them well. But what I'm getting back in turn is a business that's thriving. It's allowing me to go Greystones. I just purchased a site in Greystones. It's $500,000. I'm putting $750,000 into the fit out of that. That's not bank backed rent. That's from what we've done in the business. And I'm very clear to my team about that. It's not just own. It's at this moment in time, there's the best team in the country there working in the bakery, creating what I'm doing. So I'm very thankful for that, and I'm forever reiterating that point and giving those people a voice. We can talk about why I'm linking this into waste is because that, again, I don't talk about waste as just food. It's everything we do. Is Emily, she's in Copenhagen working at the moment. I got a watch for her. She's doing 36,000 steps a day in the business. And I was like, this is crazy. How can I make this better for Emily? Was the flour too far away? Was she going left and right too much? What was she standing on? What was her conditions to drop that down from 36,000 steps to about 10,000 steps? To bring it from 10,000 steps to 4,000 steps. looking at the processes we're doing, looking at when you're walking out the door, do you have a kill switch in the wall that turns everything off in the business? People panicked about electrical crisis. My bills are pretty much exactly the same. My bill this month was at 3,900, was it? 3,900 euros. Now, in the business, we have the equivalent of a couple of 3-bedroom houses there, but it's never been any more. Christmas they got us, didn't they? It was 9, wasn't it? I'm fighting with them at the moment because they said I was playing the day rate. But so everyone's responsible. Do you know how they're responsible? What do we do from day one? Clear bag. I'll go in there tonight. I have a bread course on tonight. I'll go in, and it will be left exactly the same by every person because they're all following the same process. And this is where I'll get on to a little exercise I'll do with you now. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of lean. Lean is basically just fix what bugs you. A massive thing we've done in, if I was to say, okay, and I'll use Musgraves because they're great. So here's the Musgraves van at your back door, arriving with a delivery. Okay, and this, let's call it soup. Okay, so when I take this delivery in here and go all the way to here, to the chopping board and the pot, where's the value? Any value? Okay, I chop all the ingredients, I put them in the pot. Where's the value? Yeah? There's value there, okay? When's the next time, now when I talk value, I can talk money. When's the next time I get value out of that pot? When the person sits down to consume it. So what I did was in the business, and I'm still doing, is I'm looking at how far the back door's away. I'm looking at how often the truck arrives. So we had trucks pulling up 5 days a week. I was like, let's make it 3. So the girls, one of the biggest complaints in the bakery was the buzzer was ringing. It's like, hey, how's it going, delivery? So I looked at who we're buying off, how we're buying, and fixed all these steps there. Again, what Niall was saying, it's with waste and money, it's always the little things. And I totally agree with Niall with the potato. You know, you just dress it up differently. You know, Niall was talking about, I'm in the art of bread making, so I'm actually in the art of selling water. You know, I'm like the souffle. The souffle is in the art of selling air. You know, it's a very, very high margin business, but all this stuff that happens along the way is where it can cost. What happens if you're lifting the box and the box bursts? Actually, I don't even take boxes into Bread 41, so I stopped that too because I work with the suppliers. I send out a mail, hey guys, the packaging that's arriving, you know, I order at a guy called Jack working for me, we order apples. I don't even know why apples are coming in because I'm against ordering apples in, but it was apples. And his thing was like, I order apples, not apples that are wrapped individually and in a box. And box, he goes, because everything that comes in, once you allow it through your back door, it's waste. If you're taking in unnecessary packaging, you then have to dispose of it. You then have to break it down. That person breaking the box down, putting the green bin, pushing the green bin out the truck, that's all non-value. There's no money in that. Stop that and slow it down. During the pandemic, I think we went 1 month, our bins going out were like 17 a month. Was it a month or a week? I don't know, it was 1,700 quid going out. My bins are normally 400 quid. My bins now are at 98 euro. And I'm saying this because I want to come across that I'm bragging, because you need to implement these in your business. You said there about the cups a year that I'll save. That's thousands I'm going to save. And then as well, and it's not thousands I'm saving, it's people coming in because they believe in it, they back it. Don't get me wrong, not everyone comes in and is up for it, you know, but that just comes through why we're doing it. And I expect thinking coffee's getting shorter in the specialty coffee shops, you know, it's like a 6 ounce now is a flat white, so it's like 2 sups and go. And then we're also saying is, stop, why don't you sit down, have a coffee? Because it's 2 sups and it's gone. So we don't have a bin on Pearse Street either, you know, so it's difficult. So then we have staff out picking up this non-value. So if you can, the simple thing, if you take even that, the non-value and value adds when you look in your business, and it's getting everyone to look at this, because it can't all be you, can't be command and control, but if everyone in the business look at you are putting down exactly what Niall said, thousands and thousands and thousands of euros. Like someone said to me, would you not get one of the things that compacts, a baler, that bales? I was like, no, I wouldn't put one in my business at all. That's non-value, the power going to it, the waste going to it. I get it a bit about the biogester when I originally got it in. It was like, will it draw too much power? But again, we just put a process behind it where it's not. And that there is massively. Not having a brown bin is really challenging. It's the same with the plates. I hear with the plates all the time. We're overfeeding, like genuinely. And then I'd also say that we work with a couple of different corporates is that they said they bring a smaller plate in, but people were stacking higher. What am I doing on? I'm doing something wrong. I said, have you spoke to them? Have you had a meeting of 30 people and said, listen guys, in the kitchen we're producing 10 grams of food waste per person. We can control it, but when it's gone out on the floor, we're producing 400 kilos a week. It's all education. It's all saying to people, I'm the biggest fan. I think if anyone remembers, I'm not the biggest fan of the government, but I'll say I'm a big fan of Micheál Martin. Why? Not for what he's doing now, because he brought the plastic bag, or the smoking ban, wasn't it? Smoking ban. I think it was Noel Dempsey bringing in the plastic bag levy. That's two things I remember it for. When I get someone I know to do a bit of lobbying, this is the stand we'll take, you know, that do something that's making change. I remember the bags came in, everyone gave out about it. Did it work? Yeah, it worked. I sometimes go to the supermarket and I forget the bag and I'm like, Jesus, I come home like this, because if I come in with a bag, the better half is like, you buying bags, I get it. But that's what I mean, little changes will make a big difference. Yeah, good.
Excellent.
Is that enough?
Yeah, brilliant. I hope everyone is saving up their questions.
Yeah.
We will come back to Lindsay briefly, and then we're going to throw it open
super.
to the floor.
Sound, thanks.
I know you've loads more you want to say on. Well, don't worry, we'll get back to you. But please do. I hope you've been thinking about your questions for Niall and Owen, and then Lindsay, who's now going to talk to us a little bit about the RAP resources, which will hopefully be some tools to help you.
Thank you. So as we have discussed at the start, people, profit and planet, and whatever way you spin it, they're all connected. So if your focus is profit, ultimately by reducing your food waste, you're going to help the planet as well. And vice versa. If your focus is the planet, well, hopefully you'll support your profit as well. Now, what the gents talked about was the proposition and how the journey needs to be empowering your team and educating your team and getting them on board. One example was when I was an ops manager. I was taking in finance review, Lindsay, your figures aren't coming in where they need to be. You're 5% off your bottom line. What are you going to do? Well, I had everything in place. I had specs, I had SOPs, I had stock takes. I was like, everything's in place. Why is this not working? So I went back to the team, spoke to the head chef, spoke to the lead barista, spoke to my ops teams, and I was like, look, I can't understand what is going on here. We're doing everything right. We're committed. We care. Head chef says to me, Lindsay, I'm trying. Honestly, there is no food waste in my kitchen. Spoke to baristas. They said the same. Yep, we're following spec. Can't understand it. So it was actually one of the kitchen porters came forward and said, I see food waste, you know. Sorry, chef, sorry, barista, but I'm the person taking out the back door and there is waste. So we took on an initiative for a week. We would measure everything. The first thing we got was, we don't have time for this. We're so busy. And when I said, look, simple as this, guys, if I don't get control of this, the costs are going to have to come from somewhere. And the easiest place for Central to focus that on is labour. So, you know, I'm not going to be able to recruit into the positions that are currently vacant. So that engaged everybody. Everybody got involved. We made it a bit fun. We had competitions. Every single piece of waste went into the plastic bag. As Owen said, clear plastic bag, you can see it. On the coffee stands and the coffee carts, they poured the little bit of milk that was left into the jug. Instead of going down the sink, it went into a bucket. End of day one, we had a bit of food waste. And I said, okay, right, here we go. Day two, with a little bit more, but some areas there was less than the day before. And I was like, well, this is strange, we were busier. And I went into the bins. Went in with the head chef, we pulled everything out of the bins and we could see there was food waste there. But the value proposition was food waste has no value to it, so it was discarded. As that week went on, slowly but surely we started reducing it. By the end of the week, we had reduced it down to one food bin throughout the whole site. The girls weren't filling over in their barista, they weren't putting that little bit of extra milk in, they were following the spec that they'd been trained. The chef was following the recipes. The guys on the counter were using their spoodles to serve their portions. All of the SOPs, the specs, the procedures that had been put in place had been revived and everybody was doing it. The end of that month, I hit my targets. End of month 2, I was pushing past my targets. End of month 3, I was able to bring in an extra 3 chefs into the kitchen. The team felt it, they believed it, they could see that actually there was a value to the food that they were throwing in the bin, and that value was extra resource, extra help, and extra bodies in the kitchens. So as I say, it's all about that. Consider food differently. It has a value, it has a cost. Make it real to people. And if that is in labour, or if that's in, that money goes back into team meals or pay rises or bonuses or whatever your link is, if you can make it, you can empower people and educate people to get involved. So what do? We need to set a food waste target. Within WRAP, we talk about target, measure, and act. If you set a target, it gives everybody a purpose and a structure. It allows you to build an action plan, and it also gives you tangible progress to demonstrate to your teams. If you're hitting scales and you're hitting hotspots and points, everybody feels that they're achieving something, which keeps everybody on board. And then get cracking with tracking. Make it as simple as you can. There's lots of resources out there. There's fancy systems. There's processes that you can use. But until you start looking at it in this most general form, the amount of people that say, oh, there's no waste in my kitchen, I can tell you, even in the most lean kitchen, there will be a certain amount of waste if you haven't identified it or looked at it. Within WRAP, we have a campaign called Guardians of Grub. That campaign has all of the resources that you need to get started with your tracking. Keeping it simple, but making it that it's the team that get involved in it as well. And then also EPA have the less food waste, more profit. Containers are great, but actually one of the things that we use is clear plastic bags, because then you're not having to decant it at the end of the day. You can tie a knot in it, use luggage scales, lift it up, work it out, 20 kilograms, out it goes into the bin, write it down. It's as simple as that. Everybody's time is precious. And as Owen said, the least moves we can make, we don't want to give anybody any more work. We want to make it as simple and part of the process. So as I say, on the Guardians website, there's lots of resources. There's campaign resources, which gets your team on board. Talks about it, some posters, because a lot of people like to see visual things, so making sure that message is there. There's also lots of operational resources. So there's a simple 7-day tracking sheet. You can print that out and you can get that started in your kitchen tomorrow. Once you start to realise where your food waste is coming from, then you can drill into it. If you find that a lot of it is prep waste, etc., then you can focus on that and drill down into that in a bit more detail. And the proof is in the pudding. So again, on the website, there is lots and lots of different case studies that have happened. On one site with their prep waste, chefs were using knives. That was the habit. Everybody used knives to peel their vegetables instead of using a vegetable peeler. By just reducing that, they reduced their food waste in their kitchens by 40%. By using that, and also the whole ingredient ethos that Niall talked about earlier, they ended up putting an extra £50,000 to their bottom line by using that 40% of the broccoli and the cauliflower and putting it into their dishes. So the dishes that they did on Monday might have been a roast dinner, but actually the cauliflower was used on a Wednesday for their street food pop-ups. One of the other things that we've seen is that, sorry, I've taken a mind blank. One of the other things that we've seen is that one site actually reduced their food waste by 56%. And what they did with that was then they reinvested that money back into their teams. So they put all of their teams through training programs. So again, it doesn't always need to go to the bottom line. It's all about investment and back into the people. And they found that their longevity of their team, they weren't leaving to go elsewhere. They were staying and reinvesting in the business. And that's back to you.
Perfect. Beautifully timed. Thank you very much, Lindsay.
That's one thing Lindsay said before I The worst of forgetting is when I reached out to the recycling companies that we work with because I wanted to track waste, they were saying that every household and every business in Ireland, the majority of what's in your green bin is a bottle of water with water in it, and they charge weight. And they were like, they can't believe that people, oh, these are recyclable, but they just put the bottles in with water, and same with, and most of the businesses have been, they're charged, well, I know I am because I monitored that, any green bin that's picked and charged per weight. So if you have an extra 3-4 litres of water in there, you're paying for it, you know, so watch it.
There you go. And it comes back to what everyone's saying as well about just observing what you're doing, what you're doing. And I know the statistics around household waste, the research shows that people really underestimate when people are asked how much they waste, and then it's actually gone in and studied. Their waste is far higher than they think, and obviously that's the same in professional kitchens from your research and your own experience as well. So we've reached the panel discussion Q&A section of the morning and or the afternoon at this point, and this is really the opportunity for all of you to really get all the information that you're looking for today out of this panel. So I've loads of questions I could ask, but I'm just going to check in with you guys and see that if hopefully there's some questions from the floor. Or I can get us started. Yeah, I'm sure that you have questions, so do please feel free at any point to raise your hand, and in the meantime, I will ask some of the questions that I had. Yeah, I this is one actually that I said I'd ask you at the end, but it makes much more sense to ask you it now, which is really just if someone was coming to you saying, look, I really do want to do something about food waste, but we haven't done anything about it so far. You know, where do you start? And maybe Lindsay, I might ask you, come to you first on that.
Yeah, I think it's start simply, engage your team, make it, you know, there's a reason for it, put a agenda behind that, whether it is, you know, it's your sustainability goals or it's just, you know, you want to support. And the clear bin bags is the key. You know, until you can visually see what's going in the bin, and your bins 9 times out of 10 are at the back of the kitchen, at the back door, because that's easy for getting it out of the kitchen, but it also means it's out of sight, out of mind. So engage your teams, maybe if it's at your briefing, or chef, you know, the last thing he does before he finishes his shift at the end of the day is goes and looks at what's in the bin. Because as I say, nobody wants to put that effort in to just see food in the bin. It's not food waste, it's food that could have been eaten. And if we can change that proposition, that'll really help.
Yeah. Owen Keogh in this case, are there ways that I suppose that you think that suppliers can support businesses on this journey, and also how would you advise people to work with their suppliers?
Yeah, so suppliers in the sense of Musgrave being as
Musgrave.
suppliers to many of the organisations in the room. Yeah, absolutely. Our goal is to work with as many organisations as we can kind of throughout our value chain, so our own suppliers as well as our business customers, to be able to tackle this issue of food waste. I'd say it's engaging, first of all, engaging with us on the sorts of resources that are available. So we're obviously linked in with WRAP quite well. Those resources we'll be able to share afterwards. That would be the first thing. And then being able to talk to the different sales representatives to be able to identify, okay, what are we actually buying, where are the opportunities, and sharing problems. I think that's probably the first thing to engage with us.
Yeah, brilliant. Niall, what are your, if you know, someone's coming to you, and I suppose even you've had this, you spoke a lot about your own experience with as culinary director for Butler's Pantry, but like just, you know, when you're starting and you're looking at this for the first time, what's the go-to?
Yeah, you're right. It can be quite daunting. You know, it can be like overwhelming at times. I'll give you kind of like bit of a case study. Recently, I was working with a small establishment, and they had a real issue with food waste. So without putting in any systems, and there was no investment really other than actually just seeing what we can do on the ground. So we hid the bins for the day. We took all the bins out of the kitchen for a day, and we just use gastro trays, and we just label them, you know, plate waste, prepared waste, and unprepared waste, and we analyze it at the end of the day. We just weight it on the scales that they use for the goods inwards, just to put a real value on it. And I think if you can put a value on what you're actually throwing in the bin, it'll have a huge impact, because you get the buy-in from senior management, from like the CFO. Say, well, listen, if you put an investment in training and support in this trying to tackle this problem, this will be the savings. And I love figures. I love data, because I'm a firm believer that if you can see something and you can measure it, then you can make changes. So that was it was a bit of fun. I mean, when I say the chef struggled with taking the bins out, but there was nowhere to hide. And it wasn't about apportioning blame onto anyone. It was just about having a look at what the reality was within that kitchen, for just a you know, small glimpse for one day. So for me, it's kind of identifying how much it's actually costing the business, and potentially, you know, having a look at maybe setting realistic targets to reduce that. So I'm not saying that we're going to eliminate it right away, but having a look at, you know, the low-hanging fruit. So if broccoli stalks is the low-hanging fruit, then you know, a little bit of investment in menu development and how you can incorporate that within a menu suite, I think would have a huge impact.
Owen, for you, what are the first steps?
Yeah, probably touching on what Niall said there. First and foremost, it absolutely costs you nothing to sort out food waste. Zero. All it does is gives you money back. I definitely encourage, when you do your first step with the money coming back, two things is communication to the team. I encourage you at this moment in time, if you are and have a problem with food waste, you're in the situation you're in. If you stop it, get a bit of that money, kick it back to the staff. You know, getting the buy-in off the staff is so important. Build on the layers, find something small. We would call them quick wins, because then you can say, look how easy it is. And I talk definitely what Owen said is like working with your suppliers is that open. Like, I know Owen doesn't drive the truck, but you might be his best customer and really get on well. He doesn't want to see you 5 days a week. He'd much rather see you on a Monday or Wednesday and do all your deliveries within that time schedule. And then what you're doing is you're giving him money back. When we ring up to put an order in, and everyone's probably been there pending their scale, they'll say it's a £100 order. At a £100 order, I wonder even making it. So the time, again, look at value, non-value. The driver pulls up on a Monday, oh, we forgot sugar, this and this, and then you put an order in from Musgraves again, and it arrives on Tuesday. It's totally unneeded. And what's happening there is a communication problem. Ordering systems are broken. You know, if you can get your orders down, we did it because we work along an app called Geeky, which is a really good, if anyone wants to look it up, it's we put it to our staff. So we asked our staff to measure their carbon footprint. And then we looked at the business as a whole, so we can measure it. So stopping deliveries coming on certain days. So we used to be 5 days, different deliveries. Now we just contact them and say, hey, what day works for you guys? And that conversation, or giving that supplier back something, like, it's a lot of money. I don't know the figures around it, but I'm sure someone could share with you what it costs a truck to put up to your building and drop it. But then you can say to that guy, any chance to take the cardboard back? And then, you know, it's this barter system again. It's like, can you wait 5 minutes? Like this morning, we had a delivery coming in of actually, funny enough, our keep cups, and they came on a pallet. And I said, we don't take pallets. And it was like, your man must own a cling wrapping company, because it was cling wrapped till the cows come home. And I was like, we don't take pallets. And he goes, well, I don't take them back. I said, no problem. That's totally okay. Picked it up, went straight in, contacted the company. How's it going, Kevin? This is what's after happening. It will never happen again, Owen. Sound. Done. Left the pallet down there. I hope when I get back there now the pallet's gone. It will be. And again, what happened, whereas that driver was new to the route, there was a miscommunication. He was quiet. It's not my problem. I'm not going to get into a back and forth with him. No problem. Went back to him, said, here's the issue. And it was sorted. Because for Kevin, I didn't order a month's worth of cups. I ordered 6 weeks worth of cups. So I've scratched his. And it's the simple. It's honestly, it's all communication. When we look at stuff, how process breaks down, communication. Well, I wasn't showed it to that or told it to that. And that goes from everything. I don't mind if you're, you know, my brother-in-law owns a centre shop, and it's funny because he sort of grew before me, and, you know, he's super busy, and I'm looking down, I go down, I'm like this, spotting everything that he's doing wrong in essence. And he's even said little things that I've helped him with has helped his business. So, and I mean that from his perspective, he'd be much larger than I am, but you can learn off everybody. And that's a beauty, which you said at the kitchen porter. Kitchen porter, toughest job in the restaurant industry, toughest job in the but they see everything. One thing they see, which people don't identify, is if something comes back in the plate and it looks a lot, you can actually start to go, well, was something wrong with that dish? And that's where feedback comes, and that helps, keeps you in line. Maybe someone bought something and didn't need it, but didn't want to say, hey, I didn't like that dish. And then you have to stop it to understand at what table did it come off. If the person's still there, hey, was everything okay with your food? I think that's important as well, because I think a lot of plate waste, someone will order, they'll over-order. They might think they like it and don't like it, but it allows you to engage in that conversation. But that's only communication from every level.
And I think, like, you know, it's always important to think about our strengths and our positives. And the thing about people generally working in food service and hospitality is, like, they tend to be dynamic and problem solving, and they, like, there's, you know, typically they will pick up the phone and talk to people. Like, I've talked to lots of food service suppliers who've, like, put, you know, thousands, maybe tens of thousands into developing apps and stuff for ordering, but chefs will still want to phone them and order. Oh my God, why are you, like, investing all of that money in it? But
I'm that person who phones you.
Yeah.
I'm like, hello, Owen. Looks like something's gone up overnight there, mate.
But I think
It's elements
from,
of that.
you know, what you're saying, and you're saying, like, engage with your suppliers and develop that relationship, and that's going to help you then when you decide to go on these journeys or to take on these initiatives, that you have that line of communication open. And I think, you know, people in this sector, that's a real plus, because they're not kind of sitting emailing back and forth trying to sort things out. They are just kind of picking up the phone to people, and that's really valuable. I'm just wondering, from the people in the room, like, a show of hands, how many of you think that food waste is a problem in your business? Yeah. And when you're seeing, like, what Niall was doing there in terms of, like, taking a particular ingredient and looking at, you know, the parts of it that are maybe being wasted at the moment, and how you could potentially not waste those, does that feel realistic for you, for your business, or does it feel like something that's just would be too difficult to do? Does anyone want to speak to that? Yeah.
It's not a huge ask, it's not a huge effort.
Yeah.
It's only a little thing
Yeah.
that could change attitude. And I think that's where you're coming from. Like, where I am now, what I'm doing, it's more about trying to change attitudes of people. And
Do you want to bring the mic over to
what's there, it's very hard to change the attitude of a chef that's... Sorry. Okay. It's very hard to change the attitude of a chef that's been there for 30 or 40 years. Regardless of what's being said, or regardless of what the stats are, they're set in their ways, and that's the bottom line. So, like, I think it's more from the younger side, and it's our responsibility, and it's just the responsibility of those in colleges as well.
Oh, it is, yeah. If you build around them.
Oh, completely.
I found this all the time. One
Yeah.
person, I build around them, or her.
Yeah.
I just build every single person around them, working off it. They will always sing in their hymn sheet, no matter what happens.
Yeah.
But if you build around them culture, you know.
It's trying to change that, I think, is bigger than the actual making kimchi out of cauliflower. Do you understand?
Yeah.
I totally get that. I've been in situations where, you know, I've had very difficult chefs to work with within my business, and what's worked for me is engagement, is engaging the team in what you want to do and do it as a team. So, I'll give you an example. So, when we were looking at food waste, what we done was we asked the team, as part of our product development, would they develop a dish on broccoli stalks. And then, so we had, say, you know, 16 chefs in the kitchen, and so we had 16 dishes. So when somebody really isn't engaged, and it's very difficult, but they're actually putting their dish on the line as well, they start to engage a little bit more. And what you're getting back then is you're getting, you know, 16 different ways of actually using something, and once you get the buy-in from the team, you can kind of move forward. And it's that engagement, I think, is super critical, because you're right. It's like, you know, some people want to be managed in different ways, and probably, I don't know about you, Owen, but in my business, that was probably the hardest part of my job, was managing people, more so than managing the day-to-day operations of running 3 kitchens 24/7. It was managing people's egos, people's attitudes, and how do you engage them. But that's worked for me. And then what we used to do is we used to, you know, incentivize, and then we'd have a competition. So we'd have a blind testing, and then the best dish there was a little kind of prize, and it might be, tickets for the theatre or something like that. It was always something. We always were giving something back because we're gaining so much more. And that's kind of, but yeah, you will, that's part of.
Yeah, I think it's well on, sometimes as a business, anytime anything goes wrong or doesn't happen, the first person I look at is myself. And I think a lot of businesses are afraid to do that. A lot of established businesses are afraid to look at themselves and what they're creating. I think when you ask, okay, Ruth's just not playing ball, something's going on with Ruth, it's somewhere along the line the communication's broken down to myself and Ruth, and I'd say, trying to grab a coffee outside work. Like, when was the last time someone took one of their team members outside work? What's the story, Ruth? How's things? Listen, we're trying to engage the clear bag. I'm not into that clear bag crap. Been around here too long. Same thing. Start something. Do this. Do that. Okay, but like, what? Something's amiss here. Well, I went to you 3 years ago and I asked for the August bank holiday weekend off, and you never gave it to me.
Yeah.
And do you know what? 99% of the time, it's something so small, and you can actually go, I'm sorry about that, Ruth. I actually never knew that. But what we're going to work on is we're going to work on our communication. Instead, don't send me an email. I'm here these days. Knock on the office. If you don't feel you want to speak to this person, come knock on the door. It's always there. And it's connection. And we all sit here and we talk about reconnection with food. We need to start reconnecting with people. Because without people, what happens? We're all done. We're all closing down. And when we look at without people, we look at Niall's level. I say to Niall all the time, how many students do you have coming through? How many chefs are in the making? Many we got in course at the moment?
Very few.
Yeah. And that, without them, guess what? All of us are out of a job. I spoke to someone recently. They said during would have been the downturn in 2010, he kept the company going. He walked through the company and everyone was like, heads were down. He's like, what the fuck's wrong with all these people? They're lucky to have a job. They're lucky that they're working here. And then he sat down, and after about 2 months, it dawned on him. He said, I'm lucky. I'm lucky to have them down there. So he changed his approach to the business. He walk in every day. I do it every day. First thing I do is walk and make every single person coffee. I check them in every single department. I know every single person's husband's names, wife's names, boyfriend's names, kids' names. Now, not necessarily everyone is good at that. Find the person. Find your champion. Let them work with the people and listen. Everyone wants to be listened to. You guys are here because you wanted to listen to some people that are doing it. So when you can get to that level of real clear communication and a nice communication, you might find that route will, fall in line.
Very, very stubborn. Onkyo, you've kind of spent your career working in sustainability roles in the retail sector and across, I suppose, different food companies. And everyone kind of talked about like mindset and people, and you can have strategy, you can have targets, but how much of it really is about trying to change mindsets?
Yeah, I'd say it depends on the issue that you're looking at. Like, my brief typically has been across not just food waste, but also climate change, biodiversity, and it's really showing people, well, firstly the challenge and highlighting what's important, but secondly being able to make it a tangible experience for people. So, when we're talking about climate change, you can talk about the money that you've invested in solar paneling, but you need to be able to translate that into what does that actually mean for somebody on a daily basis. On the retail side, it often is the case where you can be doing as much as you want on kind of reducing the amount of plastic packaging or increasing the recyclability of products. But the retailer who puts a bin towards the end of the tills or checkouts where they're taking back unwanted customer packaging, they're the ones winning out on that to the customer because it's a tangible experience for them. It's something that a customer can engage with. So I think when it comes to really driving action on sustainability, if you want to call it that, but the issues like climate change, biodiversity, food waste, which are all interconnected, it's about making it tangible for people. We can talk about the policies and the different codes of conduct and commitments at a corporate level, but it's really how are we making this tangible for people, and how does it connect to their own daily lives and their own daily experience. I'm a consumer and a customer myself, and even when it comes to coffee, I'm a really avid coffee drinker, and I try my best to bring my keep cup, but then sometimes I'm kind of like, well, I don't have it for whatever reason. But I either just don't drink coffee or I do drink coffee. So it's about really trying to make it tangible and an experience for someone in their daily life, in my experience.
Thanks. Yeah, Lindsay, and I'm wondering then about your customers, and how much should we try to, as Owen said, there's a big role kind of to educate people as well. And with the initiative around the coffee cups, obviously that had to involve a conversation with the customer. When it comes to food waste, are there, I suppose, should we be trying to communicate with customers, or like, Lyle was saying, do you just make something delicious with the product and make it an ingredient and incorporate it into your menus, and maybe you don't need to say anything about it? Or is there ways that we can communicate with customers and get their buy-in as well on reducing food waste?
Yeah, WRAP really recently just done a study into plate waste. And what was different about this study is we're all about statistics and, the figures, but on this one, it was actually an app on people's phones. And not only did they have to say where they'd eaten out and, the different courses they had to take pictures as well. And it was amazing the amount of people that had actually left food on their plates and actually typed in, as you can see, I left no food on my plate. My meal was satisfactory, whatever. The biggest contenders were garnishes. And people don't value a garnish. If it's a token little bit of lettuce and tomato and things like that, people don't see it as food. They don't see it as part of the dish. It's just there to look pretty. But also there was, 2 bites of a burger, the bun, a handful of chips. But all of those people didn't see that as food waste. So it's changing the mindset, and that can be done through education. So simple things like we have a toolkit on the website, which has just been released, and one of the things in there is educate the children, make it fun. Whether that's a little colouring in page that has a couple of facts on it, or if it's the dishes that you have, highlight a dish that effectively could have been food waste, potentially, align to that a little bit of money, 20p of this or 20 cent of this is going to charity. It just highlights, it gets a conversation started, and then that encourages your team to get involved. As I say, we also have Love Food, Hate Waste, which is a week. It's in the UK, but it's gone global now as well, where we just put a highlight on it, and there's a focus on what you eat at home. This year it was window bin. So there was a whole idea around of, you've been out for a meal with your family and friends. Take that food home with you. Not only are you going to enjoy the food when you're eating it, you're going to remember and enjoy that atmosphere, that fun that you had on that trip out. And it's about, we're all scared, this value versus quality. And, we think that big portions equal good value for money. It's not good value if somebody's paying an extra 50p for that portion that they're never going to eat. Is there potential that you can slightly reduce the cost of your dish by reducing it by 30% or 25%, because we know that food's going to end up in the bin? That's much better in somebody's pocket, or to buy, a dessert or an extra drink or whatever. And it's about that communication and making sure that you're telling the story, not just to your team, because your team are there going to go out and tell it to the customers. So yeah, it's about education and empowering everybody to have their part.
Good. Now we're going to rapidly run out of time, and then you don't want to be going out the door with questions that you didn't ask. So does anyone want to? Yeah, great. If you want to wait for the microphone, just so everyone will be able to hear your question. Thanks.
Just a question for Owen.
Yeah.
How long of the journey has it been since you decided to make these changes? Like, I'm assuming these things don't happen overnight. Like,
Yeah, no, 100% don't happen. It's little by little. I'd be strong on quick wins. Like, quick wins are essential because you get the buy-in, and people seeing change. Small changes will lead to bigger changes. I've always been probably into waste because I came into the food industry and I couldn't believe no one makes money in the food industry. I was like, oh my God. And then when I looked at what was going on in kitchens I was working in, all their food was gone, all their money was gone into bins and out the back door by a fella who they were actually paying to take their money to the dump and put it in the dump. Yeah, I would say there's a great company, and Lean is big. Lean ties into a lot of waste. It's a great book called 2 Second Lean, Paul Akers. I was out in Japan on a tour with him, and it's applicable to every business. So it doesn't matter if it's on the, I think actually a good one for any, is there any retailers here? No. I think one that my brother-in-law went through, he held back on the, You know, the updating of the prices. So you go in and you see the price under a product, and he never updated because it was more hassle to print all these off and redo them. And then the digital update came, and they looked at one, it was a Spar in particular, I think it was, and the money they made by being able to automatically put 1 cent and 2 cent on. So like lean is everything from wasting money here to wasting food. About 8 years it will take you to be a proper lean or wasting business, but it has to start. If you're not doing it now, you need to do it tomorrow. And at little small wins, small tiny change, like do the clear. If anyone genuinely doesn't, okay, it doesn't matter if you do or you don't. Does everyone use clear bags in their facility? Does anyone use black bags in their business? No. Okay, so you're doing something. That's the one win. Next thing, where I'm at with waste now at the moment is, and we all talk about feeding our kitchens and feeding our staff, is we are actually about to reverse it completely. We will be charging our staff to eat and have coffee in 41. Because now I'm out saying about waste. I'm talking about plate waste. I'm talking to people going in. But now I'm at the stage going, okay, we do free lunches, we do free coffee, we do free things. And like if you go around and look at coffee cups like they're half full, half empty, gone cold, to throw it down, they don't appreciate it. And it's not to do it. So what we're going to do is we're simply going to go €1 for a cup of coffee and maybe €1 for lunch, and then per pastry we'll do 75 cents. But what we're going to do with that is every 3 months, the money that comes in, we will give back to the staff, and each individual department can give it to a charity. So we work with our charity-based initiatives, and we always give money to the staff to give out, but now we're asking the staff to do something, and we need to buy in, because I'm out looking at it, I'm like, look at all these cups of coffee, look at the price of milk, look at the price of everything. And when you get down to that, they'll either only have 2 cups of coffee because that's all they really drink, but they've been having 6. It's a saving. And like, by saying you're saving money, you are saving money, but you're also saving their future of employment, you know? So, yeah, just smart, small things. I think we've moved very quickly in the last, since the pandemic, 18 months, we've moved very quickly. And now we're at the stage where we've explained to the staff, we tell them our vision, we tell them our journey, where now it's like zero tolerance to approach, where if someone is completely just, you know, wasteful or doing this or throwing something in. The beauty is what Niall said, the gastro tray, we do that now with the Biogester, where food waste has to go into a small bucket, and each department has to bring down the small bucket. So they're like, how's it going? They're like, not bad. What's the crack with you? And I'm like, what's, and then when you bring, and once they know you're watching, it fixes a lot of problems. But it's important, it's the right thing to do. And I think, again, the other guy is, you got to get reignite why people got into food. No one, I don't know anyone who got into food just to get a job, or that are still in food. They got in there because they passion, they love it, reignite their spark, help them come on to the next level and do it. But like, you'll always, I think in terms of, I'll always be on the journey. If anyone is into the lean thing, no, it's not a pitch, don't get it from it. I only say it because we have one of the best businesses in the world in Limavady Valley in Northern Ireland, the company called Seating Matters, that are lean business. And honestly, you can go around the world, these guys are doing it, and you can visually go in there and see it. So it helps, it massively helped me.
Thanks for that question. Anyone else? Really, no questions? Yeah, go for it. Ailish.
That on. Sorry, it's more a comment than a question, a bit of a shameless plug. I'm Patrick from Too Good To Go. The panel, I think all of the panel mentioned Too Good To Go, which was amazing, so thank you for that plug. If anyone isn't familiar about Too Good To Go, effectively what we do is if you have surplus food at the end of the day, if that's potentially going in the bin, there's an opportunity to sell it at a reduced rate through our app. So we launched in Ireland in September 21, and we have 350,000 users already on the app, and globally we've got over 70 million. So happy to have a quick chat with anyone. Obviously, we act more as the safety net, so seeing all these different options in terms of driving that operational efficiency is great. And there's actually loads of other companies out there. Positive Carbon's another one which kind of taps into that clear plastic bag as well with some technology. So yeah, definitely have a look, and happy to have a chat, as I said. And again, thanks to everyone for today as well.
How many users do you have daily, do you know, that are actually actively, can you track that?
Yes, we can track that, yeah.
I know Sarah comes into work and she's like, look what I got on Too Good To Go. True? Yeah, you do. You're a big, anyone else use it?
So yeah, we've saved 350,000 meals since we launched.
Good on you.
And globally 200 million just recently. So we're in 17 markets. So yeah, it's amazing. We've got a pilot with, sorry, I don't want to hog the mic here. We've got a pilot with SuperValu and Centra. Recently rolled out with Aldi. Loads of independent partners. Bakeries tend to lend themselves to having lots of waste. So obviously Owen, the team haven't cracked that nut yet because he's so efficient. But yeah, happy to have a chat anyway.
Good stuff. Yeah, and sorry, go ahead, Lindsay.
I had a really interesting conversation. I was at it was like an outreach program a few weeks ago, and the kids were talking about how they'd got to have, obviously I live in England now, but were able to have Greggs, and they were able to have some of these big brand foods that they'd never got to have before because their parents, you know, the money wasn't there. But through apps like Too Good To Go and stuff, they were able to get what all their friends were, so they knew what they were talking about. And as I say, I thought that was a really different spin on it. It's making, you know, fun and good food accessible to everybody as well, which is a great spin.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And as you explained earlier with the hierarchy, you know, need to be thinking preventing, reusing, and like I think that's what you're doing is brilliant, because it's given people the option to purchase what might go to waste at a lower price, and then obviously get into redistribution, and then, you know, as you spoke about, and I think it's just, you know, you spoke about the teams going with their buckets. It's so important to make sure that, you know, things like redistribution and biodigestion don't become the solutions there, that everyone is clear.
I think
that they're
visually,
like
definitely,
last
we would have moved to the online platform. A lot of stuff we've actually gone back to a bit of paper. Definitely,
Yeah.
one thing I picked up in Japan is everything is visual. Who's on site that day, whether it's a little Polaroid picture, and then the charts, and then looking at it is sometimes make the lettering bigger. You know, it's with food waste and the whole thing. It's the simple things that you might be doing it, but the sticker on the bin might be just too small. Make it bigger, you know, and monitor everything. When you can get down the line, probably where we are now, we're monitoring everything. You'll find it's very, very simple to do, and it will, you know, consume you.
And ask the questions as well. Ask your team, why do you do that? You know, there is a reason. You know, potentially that chef that's been there for 30 years and has always done things the way he's always done it, there's a reason behind it. And actually those people that are set in their ways and can be quite disruptive, if you engage them and find out the reason behind it and get them, you know, to spin it, that what actually you're doing is going to help and is going to fix those frustrations, they'll be your biggest advocate. They'll help you on the journey. They'll be the voice that everybody listens to, you know, because they're not afraid to speak up. They're not afraid to be heard. So that's one of your quick wins, is to get the most difficult ones on board first. And if you get them on board, the rest should be easy.
So we're actually very close to having to wrap up now. Does anyone have any burning questions they want to ask? No? Okay.
Can we, sorry, I'm just going to, you know, me, I love an old chat. Come here. Anyone in, so cafe business? 1, 2. Restaurant business? Corporate? No. Let's try to get an overarching where people are looking from. How's the cafe business? Good? Yeah?
So what I'm wondering is, we've spoken a lot about engaging with your team, and spoke a bit about engaging with your customers. But Niall, I might direct this to you. What if you're not the boss and you're not in control of everything? Maybe you're the head chef or you're a member of the team, and you really want this to be tackled. But like, how do you get buy-in from management or from board level?
It's all about the money. It's all about the savings. It really is. If you can identify and prove that by a small investment or support that you can save the company money, then you'll get the buy-in from higher management. I'll give you an example. It's not about food waste, but it's more about the quality of the product. And it goes back to yield analysis. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about pork. So dry cured versus wet cured. So I done a project for a company where we wanted to buy in a better product, but it was a lot more expensive. So I was able to demonstrate that there was less yield loss on the dry cured versus the wet cured. So it was actually saving the company money by spending more money. So I think if you can sit in on a financial meeting and have your proof and your documentation, well, this is what we can save if we implement X, Y, and Z, but I need the support to be able to do this, you will get the buy-in. It's as simple as that. I mean, if I went to you, Owen, and said, okay, I can save you 60 grand by doing this, you're going to go, off you go now.
Yeah, no, I think there's a massive opportunity in the space. It's like, we all are very aware that sustainability isn't just a thing It's not just coming and going to go next week. So if you're in a company or an organization and you're working at a level where they're concerned about the cost and saving money and not, and as well about being sustainable, you can sometimes just position it where, well, you know, why don't you just stand up and shout about how much money you make and not how sustainable you are? You're either one or the other. And to fix what's going on will cost you money. But, you know, doing good is good for business, and that's very, very important. And I think I can prove that with the coffee cup, getting rid of it. My sales are up on last February, last December, everything. So, like, it will initially cost, but you have to be able to absorb that cost and pivot a little bit to be able to get it back in. But it's doing the right thing is so important.
And use examples, use the likes of Owens and Niles. Examples, use the case studies that are there. You know, these are tried and tested. These are figures that, you know, if it is about money and you want to talk to, your finance team or whatever, if you can back that up with stats and figures of things that have really happened, you'll get their buy-in then. Absolutely. At the time when everybody's struggling, you know, at their bottom line, if there's anything that can be put in, and as Owen said earlier, to start food waste doesn't cost anything, you know, so it's a very minimal investment to get a massive, return on it. So, yeah, use what other people have done to set the scene.
It's all there.
Yeah.
I'm not the first person. This is done. A company in the UK did it from 25 cafes. They got rid of cups 3 years ago. Everyone's done it. One thing I'll say, and I won't say any more after it, is that we do know VAT's going back up, yeah? Everyone knows that? Okay, so I genuinely believe we are at it now. We cannot up our prices. We cannot pass it on to the customer anymore. Honestly, they'll stop coming. If they're drinking 4 cups of coffee a day, which a lot of my customers are, 3 cups, they'll drink 1. Okay, but what we can do is look at what's going in the bin, save here to enable the VAT going up, to enable the cost of stuff going up. Look at your waste, look at the money going in the truck that you're paying for, that's going into the getting burnt out there or whatever. Just save what's going in to allow that. I'm telling you now, another price increase, we're going to tip them over the edge.
Okay, unbelievably, we're at time. I want to really quickly just come to each of you to wrap up, but just to come back to the audience, does anyone feel that they have new ideas or new tools or new things that they can take away from today that will help them start to tackle food waste? Yeah? Okay. I promised that I'd come to each of you very briefly at the end just to ask you for like a top tip or two for people who, you know, for everyone here who want to start to reduce food waste in their business. I'll start with you.
Ask for help. Very simple. Just don't be afraid to say, and it's funny because I have 12 students tonight. They're very like yourselves. They'll arrive at a break course. They won't talk. They won't sit near each other. If send a message. Hey, I'm trying to do this. Any chance you have 5 minutes? That's what I learned. Douglas went out, hassled them. Jamie Oliver sent them, Sarah sent them mails till they answered us. Can we go over and see what you guys are doing? Yeah. And we're living in times where it's so easy to access that person. LinkedIn, bang, 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 mails till they answer. If you mail me, no problem. I might get back to you tomorrow, but I'm doing it, and that's what I mean. We're all willing to help. That's the beauty of what's going on in the world. We're in food because we want to see help. So ask for help.
Good stuff. Thanks, Owen.
Yeah.
Niall?
For me, I guess it's have a look at what's in your control. So have a look at your variable costs. And where you can really kind of dive deep is your waste and that variable cost. So it's something that you're in control of. There's a lot of things that you're not in control of, and if you're in a position where you can't control everything, you can still control as a chef. You can control your variable costs. So for me, when I'm looking at food costs, I'm really diving deep into what does make up my food costs. It's not just ingredients and selling price, there's everything in between, and that's where it's variable. So that's I'll dive deep into that. What's in your control, then you can action.
Lindsay?
Empower your people, communication. If you get them on board, it's going to be so much easier, and attribute a cost to it. So even if it's chips, 20 portions of chips works out to 3 hours overtime or whatever. Put it as something that's tangible, something that they can relate to. And then, as I say, you'll get that buy-in, and also constantly ask for feedback. It's not only when you start a pilot or you start something that you ask for their feedback. Ask for it every week. If it is maybe just having a coffee, if it is just walking through, if you see something good happening, engage the person and say, you know, well done. By reinforcing it, you will get buy-in.
Yeah, for me, I'd say it's engage with us as a supplier, so share your problems, and then secondly would be, again, make it tangible. I really like Owen's clear bag example there on that, put it in front of people.
Good stuff. Thank you. And huge thanks to all of you for coming. Everyone here understands how hard it is to take 2 hours plus whatever time it took you to travel here out of your business to be here. So, you know, you obviously are interested in tackling this issue and given time to it. So that's like you've already done something. So that's brilliant. Thanks a million to the team here. Thanks to Musgrave for having this event and tackling this really, really important issue. But especially huge thanks to Owen, Niall, Lindsay and Owen for taking the time out to speak with us today. That's it for today. Thanks so much.